So in this session today, I'd like us to look at how some of these recent subjects we've looked at have a negative effect on our relationships. And I know we've kind of touched on that some, but they are so critical for us to stop and analyze our own life to see where in my life is there any bit of pride that is showing up, or where in my life is there anger showing up? What kind of things show up in my life that really, you could kind of picture it like your life like a cup of water, or a cup with something in it and a liquid in it. And when that cup, sometimes there's things in life that kind of bump our cup and disturb what's inside. What comes out when that gets disturbed? And that's often where we see anger in situations like that. Or then we also talked about jealousy or covetousness. And so I'd like us for a minute to just think about how pride and anger and covetousness ruin relationships, the damaging effects, so that we can analyze those and realize how dangerous they are, try to analyze them in our own life and discover where these things may be showing up, so that we can look to God for His divine grace and help to see Him give us victory over those things. So we looked first of all at pride in a recent session. We looked at that verse, Proverbs 16:18, that pride goeth before destruction. And you know, pride is so natural. And in our relationships, as you're getting to know someone, and even in just general group relationships, you know, nobody really enjoys being around somebody who is building up themselves. But we all enjoy being around people that, you know, aren't fishing for compliments and aren't boasting about themselves. We all enjoy being around people that are very humble in nature and have a teachable spirit. They're willing to close their mouth for a little bit and let somebody else speak, so that they can maybe learn something and show that they have concern for what the other person has to say. I'm sure we've all been around those people that really evidence pride by just, they can't stop talking, and they can't stop talking about themselves. All right, those are not really fun people to be around. We don't usually enjoy that, but we all are capable of pride, you know. Or maybe we think that our way is better, you know, and we're not really willing to listen to what some good advice, some godly advice that somebody else in our life is showing us. Okay, so we've got to be very careful with pride. And remember that pride closes the door for God's grace, but humility opens the door for God to show grace in our lives. And so that is such a wonderful thing. And then with anger, boy, anger can just very quickly sprout up in our lives. You know, personally, at this stage in my life, I have 5 children, and I love those kids. I really do. But there are times where I'm tempted to respond to them in a bit of anger. I maybe would say, and there have been times where I've had to apologize to them for maybe answering back with a sharp answer, expressing frustration for maybe even something that I'd told them 100 times not to do, you know. But still, it is never right for us to respond in an anger condition. And so that can really ruin relationships. I remember as a kid in the neighborhood where I grew up in, there'd be nights, you know, warm summer evenings where neighbors had their windows open, and I'd be out in the yard playing or walking down the street, and I could hear husband and wife yelling at each other inside the house. And I would just think, oh man, that has to be a very damaging thing for that husband and wife and for their children. And these people have been married for many years. And so it's something we've got to be so careful for. And covetousness, that lack of contentment, can drive wedges in our relationships. And the devil loves to drive relationships apart once God has brought them together. And we've got to be so careful to trust God for help with our relationships.